The number to speak of 10.
Yes.
Oh.
So the first question here
I hope
is.
this our brother can go to them.
Yeah,
Once he
I will ask all
lunch,
of them
you will
Okay.
so that you attend to them.
Okay.
Yes. The first one is, how can one engage in a critical research to maybe unveil hidden facts? Because I noticed recently on social media there is a priest who lives in Germany. There are facts that he do research on, and how he brings evidence, something that appears to be forgotten, how he extracts them looks wonderful, so amazing. So how does one engage in such research to pull out those maybe hidden facts to justify your study or your research? The second one, can one propose to possible funders who do not request? And the third one, how can a beginner kick off a project research mission? Or how does one navigate through challenges of experience? You know, some may seek what you have done, for what you have done earlier, in order for them to trust maybe possible project you're about to undertake. Then the fifth one, after carrying a funded research, who bears the name when the project is achieved? And the sixth question here is, apart from research writing and book publications, which other ways can writers earn? Then the seventh, are there typical examples of successful research projects in Nigeria? In other words, are there problems solved by Nigerian scholars through research processes? Then the eighth one, are there Nigerian bodies that also fund researches? Because mostly I do hear of international funding, or funders rather. The ninth one, what is your advice on beginners who have passion for writing and problem solving, but are challenged with survival mode? That is their personal survival. Because I have a friend, maybe during my undergraduate period, he is very intelligent and capable of making this kind of research. But the challenge of surviving, that is funding for his own living, distracts him from engaging in this kind of project. And when you talk about this kind of project now, he doesn't listen to it. Rather, he pays more attention to hustle. So how can a beginner be more focused and as well survive in this kind of project? Then finally, during our undergraduate studies, we were restricted from using personal pronouns in writing, and as a result, we find it difficult to make our own direct contributions. And my question now is, does it mean that it is reserved for certain maybe level of people, maybe certain academic qualifiers, to undergo particular research and have their own stand and conclusions on certain issues? These are my questions, Doc.
Okay. Hello, sister. Were you able to hear all the questions?
Hey, sister.
Hello, sister. Okay. Father, are you there?
What you
Yeah, I heard many of the questions. Yeah.
Okay, Joy, can you confirm you heard us?
Maybe she's not around.
She's around. She tries to talk. We don't hear her.
Okay.
She unmutes when we tell her to talk. That means she hears us.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't hear.
But we can't hear her.
Currently, she unmutes her speaker.
Yes. All right, let's keep managing. Joy, we'll share the link later. We would have been happy to hear you since yesterday. When I invite you to talk, you unmute, which means you heard us, but we're unable to hear you. Okay, James asked several questions. They are very important questions. Let me take them one after the other as quickly as I can. Let me begin with the last one.
Thank you.
The use of pronouns.
Yes.
The idea of using personal pronouns vary according to disciplines.
Okay.
And it is a problem for many disciplines. For many, they consider the use of personal pronouns as making the research personal. So they say use impersonal pronouns. The assumption is that you are reporting something out there. So they want to distance you from the work. Underlying it is an assumption that if you talk about you, I, it's as if you're being biased. But that's the wrong assumption. Because the danger there is that it denies the author his or her voice. My advice here is for each level, or just know what they want and obey. So if you're a student and your department requests you to write in the impersonal, where they say this study, the research, my question is usually, this study is not a human being, so it has no capacity to. This study adopted, but the study is not a human being, so it has no, it's not qualified to use the verb adopted. But that is me philosophizing.
Okay.
But these are paradigms, fields of study use. My advice, just do what you're expected to do.
Okay.
If you have the chance, argue for it. But note anyway that many of these institutions, they have national and international bodies that dictate the patterns they choose.
Okay.
So if you lament about it, just lament with patience. It mustn't change immediately. But the most important thing is not the language they use. The most important thing is the thing you do and the thing you learn in the process. So with regard to publishing, therefore, if you are dealing with a group and they allow impersonal, use. If you're dealing with another group and they resist, they don't want impersonal, just obey them. But let your research finding be out there. I hope that is clear.
Yes.
So, but just know it's a matter of paradigm and preference.
Okay.
So, the other one is my advice for beginners who are in survival mode.
Yeah.
My advice is this: no matter the mode you are, even if you're dying, make sure your dream remains clear in your head. Even if you are only suspending it until you stabilize, don't let go of your dream. So the person in survival mode may be in survival mode because of his circumstance, but he shouldn't forget his dream. However, if only this person realizes that the thing we are drawing his attention to has the capacity to get him out of survival mode. Imagine being in a circle of colleagues who know people who conduct research from time to time. From time to time, a researcher may have a set of recorded interviews that he may send to you to transcribe, and they pay you a certain amount of money. For instance, those who did research for me last year, 2022 and 2023, for every transcription, I paid 10,000. So imagine transcribing 10 transcriptions, 10 interviews for me. How much is it? 100,000. So if only people need to know that what we are talking about is also a means, not just for survival, but also for surviving and pursuing your dream at the same time.
Yeah.
So this distinction between what we're talking about and survival is wrong. It is because they don't understand. If only they do. So if you have such a person, try to encourage the person into realizing two things. One, whatever the condition today, don't allow the dream to die. Two, what you're drawing him into is also a means of survival. And not just survival, a means of thriving.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion. The other question about local funding, yes, there are local funders, but they are few. Some of them, in fact, something like the topmost of them is what we call TET fund. Tertiary education, clinical. But like the name goes, you will see, they fund mainly tertiary institutions. But then, many of the researches they fund research teams. In which case, if you know somebody in tertiary education and the person is in your circle, and the person is a scholar, he may do a proposal, and if he knows you have interest and capacity, he may constitute a team and add you there. Are we clear? Yeah. So like I said, there are fewer funders in Nigeria than out there. But whether there are.
Thank you.
So the other one is, are there problems solved by Nigerian researchers? Yes. For instance, I know a Nigerian researcher who is working on a concept to counter decolonization. He described it as transcolonization. In fact, I am among those who are countering decolonization by bringing up this new concept. And we'll talk about it, bringing into perspective the place of agency, the place of creativity, the place of imagination. Decolonization, for instance, ignores creativity, ignores imagination, and focuses on what the other person is doing. So, this research is still ongoing. And if we succeed in making decolonization and transcolonization a stable alternative to decolonization, that means we have provided a conceptual clarification, a conceptual alternative that also adds to the capacity of human beings to stop blaming others in their general personal lives and to live lives fulfilled as human beings. So my answer is yes, the Nigerian researchers are solving problems. I have just given you an example from my perspective as a philosopher. There are many others. The only thing is that the number is fewer. The only thing is the number of funding they get is fewer. For instance, the work I concluded last year, which I'm still working on the book, is on whether traditional knowledge systems are creative. So when you go to a herbalist in your state and the person claims to cure your disease, are they giving themselves space to bring new solutions to the ones they inherited? Or are they just recycling what their forefathers taught them? Now, if you look at this from this perspective, the intention is to check if we are not creative, can we grow? Put another way, is it because that we are not creative that we are not growing? Because decolonialists, for instance, argue why what they call epistemic injustice, that is the West is imposing